booking an extra 10 meetings a week do for your agency? Now, if you're looking for a more consistent flow of meetings coming in, I'm going to go through and show you the exact formula, the exact roadmap that we use step by step that you can follow to ensure that you've got a more consistent and predictable flow of sales meetings and clients coming in for your agency. So let's get into it. So first things first, we're going to walk you through this. You could just skip the video and read the notes, but probably better you don't do that. I'm going to go in a lot more detail with the video. So I'm going to go through step by step. Now, the first step, the most important element is your audience. I'm going to start really quickly with the audience and the offer, and then we're going to talk about the outreach, okay? Because the most important thing is not how you say something, i.e. the outreach, or what you're saying, i.e. the words that you're using, or necessarily the offer that you're putting across. The most important element of your success when it comes to client acquisition and booking meetings for your agency is who you're speaking to, okay? It doesn't matter how good your offer is if you're trying to sell it to the wrong person, right? If you're trying to sell, I can't really think of a great analogy, but if you're trying to sell something to somebody where it doesn't make sense, they're not going to buy it, right? If you are, for some reason, if you had a martial arts practice, for example, and you had the best center in the world, you're not going to be able to get grandmas to sign up to it. It's just not going to happen, okay? Because it's the wrong audience for the wrong things. You have to start with the audience first. Find an audience that is, for lack of better words, is starving, they're hungry, they want something, and then our job is to go ahead and put something to them. But step by step, what we want to do is pick a niche. Now, a lot of you still don't have a niche, which is just really surprising to me. So if you don't already know who you're targeting, get clear on that first. So for me, for example, with this YouTube channel, my niche is marketing agency owners. Hopefully, if you clicked on this video, you are running an SMMA. So that's step one, okay? Pick your niche. Now, number two, research the niche and what they really want. The reason that I'm creating this video is because I know one of the biggest pain points of my niche is the inability to book sales calls consistently, right? And the reason that I'm putting this across to you step by step is because people want the practical step by step in my market. I know this because I've done the research and I know you guys well enough to know what it is that you're looking for. So for me, when it comes to the research, what I've done and what I do is I look at other people that I guess you can say quote unquote are my competitors, and I'll have a look which of their content is getting the most views. And I know that videos on booking more sales calls is what's going to work. So I go and do that research. I figure out, okay, well, you guys need help booking sales calls. So now I make content about that. My offer is about helping you book sales calls. So number one, what is the content that's trending in your market? You pick a niche, and once you know who you're talking to, i.e. the niche, the market, what content is already in that market? What are other people, your competitors, what kind of content are they pushing out that's getting the most amount of attention? And of course, I'm talking about YouTube right now, but whether I'm conveying the information I'm conveying today in a YouTube video or a direct message to you, a cold email or cold call or whatever it is, it's all the same thing. It starts with the fact that you have a pain point, which is the fact that you want more meetings. And here I am showing you ways to get more meetings, okay? The delivery about it comes later. For now, it's just understand that you have a niche. Once you have a niche, you can identify your niche and identify, what is the research. You can do some research in the niche and figure out what is trending and what are the top videos, what are the top things that people are interested in, okay? Now, once you can figure this out, you're going to get the answer. I touched on it before, but you're going to get the answer to what is the most painful problems in your market. And because you're running a marketing agency, you want to look specifically at the problems that marketing and sales can solve, okay? Because we're going to have a marketing-based offer. So what of the problems that your niche have, and let's just say, for example, you help, landscapers. Now, landscapers are going to have a multitude of different problems. Some of it's going to be an inconsistency of lead flow. Some of it's going to be the quality of leads, but some of them are going to be unrelated to marketing and sales, such as high equipment costs or, dealing with difficult customers. Well, to be fair, that could be more marketing related, but you get the idea, right? There's going to be some problems that they have that you just cannot deal with. It's not your role. So you want to look at what are the most painful problems that are related to the marketing and sales. And those are the ones that you want to basically commit to solving. You pick the most painful problem and you commit to solving it. That's all we do really with this business. Once you know your niche, you've researched your niche, and you figure out the most painful problem, you want to define your ICP, which is your ideal customer or client profile. Now, you have to understand that not everybody within your niche, i.e. marketing agencies, is going to be struggling with the problem that you solve. I know that not every marketing agency struggles with booking meetings. So quite frankly, if you're watching this, I mean, you wouldn't be watching this video because it's all about booking meetings. If you had the predictable flow already coming in, you wouldn't be watching this because you would have too many meetings to handle already, right? So those people, although kind of within my niche of marketing agencies, they're not the people that I'm targeting. Yes, they are a marketing agency owner, but they're not a marketing agency owner who is struggling with booking meetings. Those are the people that I'm creating this content for right now, okay? So you want to ask yourself, who within this niche is struggling with the problem? What is the ideal client profile of those people? What do they look like, those people that are struggling with this problem? And I know through my research and through the fact that I've been doing this for many, many years, we've booked over 400 sales calls at this point, and I've personally taken myself. So I know that the bulk of who I'm targeting right now with this content is marketing agency owners between the ages of 24 to 35, some younger, some slightly older, people who struggle with a predictable flow of booking qualified sales calls and signing clients consistently. I also know that most of you are men, and the reason this is all of this is important is because I can talk directly to you. I have an audience that has a very painful problem, and I have a really good solution at solving it. And as long as I'm able to communicate that well, the foundation, I mean, regardless of how I communicate it, the foundation's already in place. Is the fact that I have something that you want. And when I have that, I'm serving it to a market that desperately wants something, they will end up buying. And it doesn't matter how good to a certain extent, it doesn't matter how good or bad your outreach is, it will work as long as you pick a good audience and you understand them well enough that you can recite their problems back to them very, very well, okay? So this is the first thing. You got to know your audience and know who you're targeting. Once you know your audience, we want to go ahead and create an offer. And now I'm not going to do a full masterclass training on offer creation today because quite frankly, I've got it and you guys hear this all the time. I'm just going to give you a few things that you probably haven't heard of before, a slightly different way of looking at your offer. So from the research above, from all of the stuff that I've just gone through, and I'm kind of going through the basics, but the important thing, most important thing is decide who you want to pick, like who you want to target, and then go and just research them, talk to them, book calls with them, speak with them, do different things to get this research. And once you've got the research, you can go ahead and you can put an offer together that accurately targets their largest pain point and solves it for them, most importantly, all right? So when it comes to creating your offer, here are a couple things that you need. Firstly, a target audience. So you already have that. Again, marketing agency owners, but specifically marketing agency owners who are struggling to book sales calls. That's my audience right now, and this is what it looks like in a little more detail. So done, that's exactly it. Primary promise. This is the most important, but not the only aspect. A lot of people think that, when we talk about an offer, they think it's one of three things. They think it's either the promise, i.e. the thing that you're delivering, or they think it's the mechanism, i.e. how they're doing it, such as Facebook ads. Or sometimes when I talk about offer, people think it means the guarantee, and like the fact that they're going to offer some type of guarantee. But these are just three aspects of the offer. An actual offer has a primary promise, it has mechanisms or deliverables, it has premiums or bonuses, it has pricing terms. I'm going to walk through these one by one in a second. It has risk reversal or guarantees. And sometimes it has a unique mechanism, and sometimes you can have unique results in the way that you're achieving it, okay? But it's not like an offer is not any one of these things. It's all of these things put together. So primary promise, right? As I said, it's the most important, but it's not the only aspect. So this is the results and benefits you're driving for people. I.e., if we're working with landscapers, we may say, hey, we're going to get you 20 X type of jobs, whatever type of jobs they want. We can say, hey, we're going to get you 20 of those each month. That is the primary promise. For me, for agencies, 20 clients in 6 months. That is our primary promise. That's what we achieve. That's what we do. That's what everything's built for. If you don't want 20 clients, don't work with me, because what we do is we get you 20 clients in 6 months. That is our primary promise, okay? So, of course, some people will take that. They'll get even better results. Some people will take it and they will, come a little bit below the mark because they don't want 20. That's fine, but that's the primary promise of our offer. Now, the mechanisms and deliverables. this again is only one aspect of the offer. So for most of you watching marketing agencies, this is going to be the exact service that you're selling that gets results. So the actual vehicle that you're using to get people from where they are right now to achieving that primary promise that you're selling them. Okay, it's what you're getting to close that gap. So for a lot of you watching, it's going to be Facebook ads, Google ads, it's going to be potentially social media content, marketing, organic type of stuff. It could be email marketing, it could be funnels, it could be copywriting, it could be a bunch of different things that are going to make up the offer. And every offer that you have has to have some kind of mechanism or some kind of deliverable, because, it's what's being delivered to the client. This primary promise is the bulk of the thing that you're delivering, but this mechanism or the deliverable is like the vehicle that you're using, as I said, to get them to that primary promise. So it's the actual thing that you're doing, the actual like kind of step-by-step of what your offer looks like, from the logical step-by-step perspective, okay? So get clear on what this is for you, and remember that it's only part of it. Don't go out and say, hey, yeah, we're a Facebook ads agency, because you're not. You're an agency that helps people helps a very specific audience achieve a very specific promise with a very specific deliverables and everything else down here as well, okay? Now, in terms of premiums and bonuses, the number one way that, when I'm working with my clients one-on-one, what I tell them is look at your clients and look at what's going to happen before you work with them and after you work with them. So what I mean by that is, for example, if you're primarily doing Facebook ads, right? What do people need before you can run successful ads? Well, they need creatives, so they need pictures and videos. They also probably need some testimonials, case studies. Depending on the niche, they may need more, they may need less. So you need to go and look at what do people need before you implement your offer. And that is a great way to create a bonus. Likewise, what do people need after your offer? A lot of agency owners, especially they're doing lead generation, they will generate the lead and then they will just leave the lead there. They don't help the client actually make money from the lead. They just generate the lead and say, there you go, I wish you the best. Hopefully you were able to actually close the lead. Newsflash, most businesses don't have a lead generation problem. They have a lead nurture problem. They think that they need more leads, but in actuality, they don't need more leads. They just need a better approach at nurturing the leads that they currently have and closing those and converting them into customers or clients. So if you just deliver a lead, and you don't think about what happens after you deliver the lead, well, then your client's not actually going to get very good results unless they already have an amazing sales process and sales team in place. And just a lot of businesses don't have that. They're not used to dealing with cold traffic at the level that you're going to be sending them. Again, this is an advertising example because that's my background. It's what I'm most familiar with. But it's the same for everything else that you're doing. If you're doing email marketing for e-com stores, what happens after you send the emails? Well, they land on the website. Okay. So could you maybe not necessarily do the conversion rate optimization for them, but could you maybe at least give them a checklist or something that they can do to improve their website so they can, actually convert the traffic that's coming? Like, you've got to look at what's going to happen before and what's going to happen after your entire offer. And you can only know that once you know the actual mechanisms that you've got for your offer and what they are. All right. Now, pricing. Pricing is really simply, it's how much you charge. I'm not going to talk too much about that today. Hopefully none of you are charging any less than 1.5K USD a month. If you are, then you need to probably increase that. If you feel like you can't increase it, usually it's a mindset problem. But if it's not a mindset problem, the other way or the other reason that you might be undercharging is just you're not providing enough value. So if with this audience, this primary promise, you want to make sure that this is significant enough in terms of value that you can actually price what you want to charge. So for me, if I want to charge 1.5K, I want to be able to deliver at least 10x the ROI. So if I want to charge 1.5K a month, how can I generate 15K for my clients each month? Now, some markets you can get away with less, significantly less. Some markets you can say, hey, it's 1.5K and you're going to get like a 5K each month in return. And some markets are going to be okay with that. For me, as an average, I like to say a 10x ROI, but it really depends. It's not always absolutely necessary. Some markets that can get away with, a little bit less. Obviously, it's still going to be very valuable for them. They're still going to make a really good ROI. But if they have really, really good margins, they're not going to worry so much. If they give you 2K a month and they get 5K or they get 10K a month, they're going to be very, very happy with that for some markets. For some markets, for other markets, you're going to do more. All right, you're going to charge them 2K a month, but you need to produce them 20K or 40K or 50K in order for it to even really make sense for them when it looks at the margins perspective, okay? But as long as you're delivering enough value, you can charge pretty much as much as you want. If I wanted to charge somebody 10K a month, I would just be wondering, how can I drive them 50 to 100K a month in return? And as long as I'm able to do that, a lot of businesses will give you that 10K because you're able to produce the outcome. You make it a no-brainer for them. You're like, hey, give me 10K each month, and each month that you do that, I'll give you 50 to 100K back. That would be silly not to say yes. All right, so that's pricing. But aside from pricing, there's also pricing terms. And if you, by the way, just really quickly, like if you're skipping any of this stuff, your outreach doesn't matter. Your outreach doesn't matter because your outreach is going to suck anyway. You need to have these foundations in place. You need to get these foundations right before you can look at booking meetings and getting people in. This is the stuff that's going to actually, this is the 80% of your outreach. You've all probably heard of the 80-20 rule. This is the work that does 80% of the work, okay? The outreach is literally like the 20%. It's the smallest aspect of this entire piece, this entire puzzle. You gotta make sure that you get this stuff right in order to get your outreach right, okay? So pricing terms isn't something that you hear about a lot. Now, to be totally honest with you, it's, people can pay more, but what it comes down to is pricing versus pricing terms. Pricing is how much you charge. Pricing terms is how you charge them. So for example, if you set people up on a 3 months retainer, it's a 3-month program. So you try and collect that 3 months up front. And let's just say it's 2K a month. 2K times 3 is 6K. So for the initial 3 months, you charge 6K. Now you can collect that up front, or you can collect that as a monthly retainer. 2K today, 2K next month, and 2K the month after. That is the terms of your pricing. We have an element in the way that we do our pricing, which is performance-based, wherein we collect 50% of our pricing, our investment, we collect 50% of that upfront, and then we collect the other 50% once our clients make that money back. In other words, once they have proven that our systems work to not just book meetings, but actually sign qualified clients, that's when, and then once they make their second, once they make the ROI, so once they make that money back, that's when they pay the second half. Now, I'm going to be honest with you guys, that's a really, really ridiculous term that we're doing. Like, it's incredible. And that's why it works so well, because we're telling people, hey, you don't need to pay us the full thing today, just pay us 50%. If it when it works for you, pay us the second half. If for some reason it doesn't work for you, then don't pay us the second half. It's really, really simple. But we've never had that happen because it works. All right, so that's the terms. Now, next to that is risk reversal and guarantees. What I just mentioned just then in terms of that terms, I mean, for us, it's a form of a guarantee as well. But a risk reversal and guarantees, the number one mistake I see people making here is that they rely on it too much. So they will have a primary promise that's pretty good, and they'll have a reversal or a guarantee that's really good as well. It's like, hey, we'll help you achieve this result, or we'll give you your money back. But then they miss every other element of the offer, and that's why it doesn't sell. Or if it does sell, it doesn't perform, and they end up giving their money back, or whatever that guarantee is. So you've got to make sure that this is really, really good, but also it's good for you and it's good for them. I actually made a video recently on creating guarantees, so if you want to check that out, just go back on the channel. I'll actually leave it in the description below so you can check out that video. Really, really important if you're setting up guarantees to make sure that you get that right. Now, a couple last little bits about the offer. If you can look and figure out if you've got some type of unique mechanism. Now, this is essentially what you do, which is unique versus your competitors. So the example I always give people is, you know, I don't have a quote-unquote phone, I have an iPhone, right? It's just like a Samsung phone or a Google phone or whatever other brands there are out there. It's just like everything else except the fact that it's an iPhone, and that makes it unique. Now, yes, it looks different to other brands and it operates differently to other brands, it looks differently to other brands, but most importantly it's been repackaged differently to other brands. So a lot of the time when I talk about a unique mechanism and what we talk about as marketers, unique mechanisms, it's not necessarily that you're doing something that's completely mind-blowing that the market isn't seeing, it's that you're doing something that the market isn't talking about, okay? It's the differentiation that is creating that unique mechanism. So it is a part of the mechanism that a lot of people don't focus on, for example, and then you're using that as your unique mechanism, okay? See if I can think of a better example really quickly. So let's say that you've got this mechanism going on and you've got, say, Facebook ads, and then you've got, it goes to a funnel, and then you've got like a nurture sequence. That's a pretty common service delivery. Like, that's not super special anymore. It used to be, it's not super special anymore. But what is it different? What do you do differently when it comes to your Facebook ads? Maybe you rely on a different, like, you've got a different kind of way that you position the ads. Maybe instead of going straight for the sell, you do this interesting nurture-based approach where you put an ebook out there, you collect the leads, and then you nurture everybody on the back end. And that way the lead cost at the beginning is quite cheap because you're giving something away, but then you're nurturing everyone on the back end, and that's how you really make your money. So the majority of agencies are just going straight for the sell or straight for, you know, the lead or whatever it is. We're taking a slightly different approach. We are going for the lead right away, but we're long-term nurturing them. I'm not saying that that's a superior model. I'm just using it as an example to say that that is a unique mechanism and it's a unique approach. So you can go to your market and say, hey, we've got this brand new mechanism or this new approach that other people aren't following right now. This is how it works. And then when you've got a really good primary promise, you've got a really good risk reversal, and you've got everything else, and you say to them, and by the way, this isn't something you've ever seen before, they get really, really interested by that. And that, again, is going to really, really enhance your outreach. I hope you're beginning to see how all of this stuff comes into your outreach, because when you're able to communicate this in your outreach, that's what causes the outreach to perform well. The outreach framework is really simple. High name, a little bit of personalization, an idea about your offer, risk reversal, call to action. There's not much more that we can do to change it. Yes, we can change the format a little bit. We can move things up and down. We can add some things. We can remove some things. But the basic promise and the basic perspective or approach for outreach is always going to be the same thing. You call somebody out and you say, hey, name. You call out the fact that they are a particular niche, so a target audience. You mention your primary promise. Maybe, depending on what your mechanisms are, maybe you mention your mechanisms. Maybe you'll mention your risk reversals or your guarantees, and maybe you'll mention something that's unique. But the point is, the way that you actually do the outreach is always going to be pretty similar. It's this stuff that really differentiates you and really makes your outreach stand out versus other people's. The last element here, as I said, is unique results. So this is just, what are some results that you've helped your clients achieve in the past, if you've had clients in the past, and mention those. So for example, case studies, just put your case studies out there in your emails and in your outreach or whatever form of outreach you're doing. Mention your results. It's really, really simple, okay? But you've got to know that you're talking to the right people. Once you know who you're talking to, have an offer that you know that they actually want based on their research. Put together the offer in the way that I've just set it out here, and then you can get into your outreach. Now, when it comes to the outreach, I'm going to talk about a few different areas here. So first things first is you've got to ensure that you have no attachment to the channels that you're using. And what I mean by that is when you pick out a niche, the example we were using before was landscaping, is you've got to ask yourself, and part of your research is figuring out what are the marketing channels that these people use. Now, I've never worked with landscapers. I don't actually know the answer to that. If I were to take a guess, I would say that they're probably easy to reach by phone. I can imagine that they put their phone on their websites. I can imagine that they're pretty easy to reach via cold email. And I can imagine that they're probably on maybe Facebook or Instagram, but probably not LinkedIn. I might be totally wrong there. I would have to do the research to figure that out and check it. But I would say those are probably the channels that they're in. So regardless of whether or not I like those channels, I'm still going to use them because that's where my audience is, right? I'm going to go to my audience and I'm going to sell there. If the example that I've heard somebody use before is, it's like selling, like meat outside a vegetarian or a vegan convention. Not only could it be seen as insulting, but most importantly, those people are not going to buy the meat that you're selling. So why would you go out and put like a hot dog stand outside a vegan convention? Doesn't make any sense. Now, if you have a vegan stand, great, you're doing the right thing. But the important thing is you've got to pick the channels based on where your niche is. And that's what you'll use to target them, okay? Now, if they are most accessible by phone, then call them. You have to excuse your emotions and kind of excuse them for a second. And this lack of desire to cold call, a lot of people have a lot of pain around cold calling. But the truth is, if that's where your niche is, you have to use it because that's where they are. And it just comes down to a question of whether or not you really want to grow your agency, okay? Now, growth is uncomfortable. I'm not going to talk too much about this, but growth is uncomfortable, and we don't like the fact that we feel bad when people reject us, or, you know, when we do something and it doesn't feel nice for us. We don't like that as humans, but part of us growing as entrepreneurs is doing the things that scare us and taking risks and doing things that cause us short-term pain for incredible long-term pleasure. So that's what we got to focus on, okay? So if it's cold calling, do it. If it's cold email, do it. If it's going door to door into businesses, then do it, okay? I'm not here to tell you what is better than another. I'm here to tell you to look at what is best for your niche and then use that one, because that's what you're going to get results in, okay? Now, if you launch in cold calling because you love it, this is on the flip side, you love it, but it doesn't end up working because your niche isn't there, well, then you need to change it up. So for example, if you're targeting e-com and you want to do cold calling, well, that's just not going to work. Then you need to either change your method of outreach, or maybe you need to consider changing your niche. But I would say just keep your niche and change the way that you're doing your outreach, because you can always reach businesses as long as you're doing it in the right way. Okay, I've met e-com founders just like regularly in real life. I've met so many business owners just in real life, just doing my day-to-day, that it's like it doesn't really matter how you're doing the outreach as long as that's where the people are. Okay, so quickly, volume. So really, for me, just a really generic kind of KPI or metric that I aim for is a 1% meeting book rate, which means you book one meeting for every 100 outreaches that you do, but expect low to start. For me, if I get a 1% meeting book rate, I'm pretty happy with that. I can scale it. We often get way, way higher. One of the systems that we use, we get around a 4% meeting book rate at scale, which is pretty good. I can't even say that it could be higher, to be fair. Like 4% meeting book rate is really, really good. 1% meeting book rate is kind of like industry average when you're decent. So it's kind of scalable, but yeah, if you can get it higher, get it higher. But the important thing that you need to keep in mind is doing enough volume that you actually book enough meetings to sign the number of clients that you want. It's really, really simple to grow an agency if you've done the math. The whole thing becomes really, really, really simple. If you miss the metrics, then you just make the improvements and go again. You know, if I know that I need to do 100 outreaches and a 1% meeting book rate, I'm going to book one meeting, and I do the 100 outreaches and I don't book one meeting, then I need to look at maybe what's going wrong and I need to make improvements. Now, in that scenario, it's actually a bad example because I would want to do more outreach just to confirm that metric. But let's just say if I did like a 500 outreaches, I'm expecting to book 5 meetings and it doesn't work, then I need to go and look at what's going wrong and I need to make the improvement. But most people just don't ever do this math, and that's why they don't do well, because they don't figure out how much they actually need to do to be successful. And then they just do as much as they feel like doing. They don't get results and they say, it didn't work for me. No, it didn't. It's not that it didn't work for you. It's just that you didn't do enough of the work that you needed to do. So make sure that you're actually doing enough volume. Outreach is really simple. If you've got everything nailed that I spoke about already, and you just do enough volume, you will get results. Even if you've got a 0.1% meeting book rate, right? Where you have to send like 1,000 meetings in order to book one meeting, or whatever the math is on that. Well, that still just means that you need to do 10K outreaches to sign one client. You could do that. It's not very good, but I mean, you're still going to sign a client, you know, and that client, you know, you might be able to charge 2K a month for, and then you've still got a client, okay? So volume with really good offer, it doesn't really matter what you say, as long as you're targeting the right people and you're doing enough volume, you are going to be successful. Simple as that. Now, of course, if you do your outreach better, then it's going to be even better for you, but you get the general idea, okay? Now, let's quickly talk about consistency, because the more consistent you are, the more that you can contribute to the flywheel effect. When I talk about a flywheel effect, you have to understand that with a business, there's this thing that you do the outreach, you get results, you get feedback, and it flips in and it goes in a loops round like this. The actual system of outreach has essentially inputs, processes, outputs, and feedbacks. These are the main elements. There is a little bit more to it, but to simplify it, this is what the system looks like in terms of the actual things that you have to do. So the inputs of outreach is firstly just making sure that you've got quality data. This means that you're, again, reaching out to the right people that actually meet your ICP. And if you're using cold calling, making sure that you're using numbers that work, or if you're using email, contacting email addresses that actually work, that's your data. And this is the most important element that people don't think about. Everybody wants the magic script, but they don't do the work of figuring out what their ICP is. They don't do the work of figuring out what their pain points are and what they truly desire, their biggest goals in life, and who the people are on such a deep level. They don't figure this stuff out. The more that you can get this stuff right, the better everything else can be, because this and all the research that we've come into will come back into this. And this is why, quite frankly, the people that haven't made it to this point in the video are probably just not going to be as successful as they could be, because they're not the ones that are doing this work. The ones that you guys that are still watching it, you're the ones that are going to do this work and actually be very successful, because you're getting all the input right, so you can feed this into the processes. All right, and the processes, for example, is like the actual scripts that you're using, the campaigns that you're using, the things like that. Okay, so the processes is just that, how you actually do the outreach. The outputs are the results that you get, i.e., you have your inputs. With the processes, you contact 1,000 businesses and you book 10 sales calls. That's the output. And based on that, you look at what the feedback is. So the feedbacks are like the metrics, the output data, etc. So all of the different things, it's feedback, right? So it's, you implement the system, it's what you're getting from the system. It's the outputs, but also the feedback from the outputs. If the outputs is just a bunch of people saying they're not interested, and you ask them why, and they say, well, because we don't want that primary promise that you're selling, then that's your feedback. And then you go and you feed that back in now. I'm going to talk about the feedback loop. You feed that feedback back into the system, and you get this feedback, and it feeds back into inputs. And you just go. You realize that, okay, maybe I'm contacting the wrong people, or maybe I'm selling a promise that people don't want, and then you make those changes and you run it back through. And that's why I'm talking about this flywheel loop. It just consistently goes round and round and round like this. And the faster it goes, the faster it will go. It builds momentum and it continues spinning, and that's your business growing. And that's why people typically have an exponential increase in their success, because it's all about getting that flywheel going. And once it really starts going, then it really, 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 really goes. And that's the exponential increase that most people see. All right. In terms of feedback loops, you take actions, you get results. With the results, you get feedback, and you get that feedback and you feed it back into your original actions. That's how you get results. That's how you win. In other words, we've all heard the cliche analogy of throw shit at the wall and see what sticks. And that's exactly what this is, in a more slightly technical way of saying it. All right. So if in the volume planning stage you figure out that you need to do 1,300 outreaches to sign one client, see it through. This is one of the ways, the most important ways that people mess up, is that they either don't do the planning, or they do the planning but then they just quit because they're like, it's too hard. All right. But at least if you do the planning and you know that you need to do 1.3k outreaches, and you do that and you don't get successful, and then you want to quit. When I say you don't get successful, I mean you don't see the results that you're after, and then you want to quit, then at least you know that deep down, right now, your psychology is probably not quite where it needs to be for you to be successful. Because if you're quitting after doing what you need to do, you're probably not, probably need to work on that first. All right, that's just the nice way of saying it. So figure out what is necessary, do what is necessary, and if you don't get the results that you wanted, figure out what went wrong, improve it, and then you win. It's as simple as that. Consistency is what separates the winners from everyone else. You need to do the math, stick with it, make improvements based on the feedback that you get, and as long as you just continue and you keep these two in mind, literally write them out on a piece of paper, keep them in your mind, stick them up on your wall, put them wherever you need to see them, and remember that whatever you're doing is not because necessarily you want to do it, it's because you're doing testing. You're just testing. I send outreach sometimes and people respond and say, dude, this sucks. And I'm like, great, thank you. Because that's the feedback I needed to maybe change it. Right? If you tell me that my email sucked, I'm really happy to hear that. Because that means that I can probably stop doing it and I could do something else. But the important thing is not people telling you that your outreach sucks, it's the fact that you were trying something in the first place. And that's what you got to do. That's what we do as entrepreneurs. You can't expect everything to work because not everything will work. Statistically, if you have a 1% meeting book rate, it means that 99 people that see your outreach are not going to book a meeting with you. In other words, you got to quote unquote fail 99 times to succeed once. Are you willing to do it? Because that's what it takes. If you are willing to do it, then again, you're going to win. You're going to do very, very well. So stack your winnings. Read the book called The Winner Effect. Explains very, very well scientifically why winners win and the rich get richer. In short, people that win, win. Okay, that's it. You just got to stack your wins. The more wins that you can have, the more that you will win. So read the book, because it's going to strengthen the fact for you to understand that if you're only winning in business and you're not winning in other areas of life, then you're not going to see yourself as a winner, and you're probably not going to win in business at all. All right? A true winner wins. That's what they do. So you've got to stack those wins, which means you just being consistent is a massive win, and you need to see it as such, right? You need to celebrate that consistency and focus on your inputs, the fact that you're doing the work, and celebrate that, because you know that if you do enough inputs, you will inevitably win. Read this book, and as a side note, really quickly for this, just reinforce the idea that if you do the work, you're going to be successful, right? Just part of success, and one of the largest parts of reprogramming your brain, is kind of brainwashing yourself to be successful. And I found that one of the best ways to do that is by just showing yourself that success is possible and that you can achieve it, right? When you're just starting out in your journey and you've grown up in a place like myself, I grew up in an area where there wasn't a lot of wealthy people. I didn't really know actually anybody wealthy growing up myself. I knew maybe one family that had decent money, but that was about it. And they weren't exactly close with us. So the point is, I didn't have enough reference experiencing that I could be successful financially. I had to go and prove it to myself. I had to go and read about all of the tough journeys that these entrepreneurs have been through. Watch some of their what are they called? Like podcasts, interviews, stuff like this. Don't spend too much of your time on it. You're going to focus on the right things. But ultimately, you've got to prove to yourself that you can win and you can be successful. And if somebody else can do it, you can do it too. So really quickly, why people fail? Well, it's because it's not that people realize that something is too difficult. It's just that most people don't win it enough to be consistent, push through the pain, and deserve it enough to win, right? You have to understand that the way that you're given things, and without being too woo-woo and kind of spiritual, whatever you want to call it with you right now, but the way that I see it is, in order for me to get something, I need to deserve it, because that comes across on a psychological level, where it's like, I will not achieve something if I don't feel like I deserve to achieve it. And that's just human psychology. And then on the more spiritual, energetical level, if you feel if you feel like you don't deserve something, you're not going to be able to achieve it. You're not going to be able to get it. It's too far out of your reality. So you've got to believe that it's possible, and then believe that you deserve it. The best way to believe that you deserve it is by doing the work, pushing through the pain. If you keep getting people saying, as I said before, if you get people reaching out and saying, hey, your outreach sucks, feel it. It's painful the first few times, and after a while you'll get used to it. And when you get used to it, that's when you realize the success is coming, because you'll be like, hey, you know what? I've been through enough pain. I deserve to win. And then you will start winning. Don't get resentful if you've got through the point where you've been through so much pain but you're not winning yet. Push through, because there's more pain that you need to go through in order for you to be successful. But that's where things will start coming in, because you'll get to a point and you're like, you know what? I deserve this. I really, really deserve it. And that's when your life will start changing. And I can speak on that through personal experience. I went 3 years booking 3 meetings. I booked 3 sales calls in 3 years. It's really tough. It's really painful. And then on the 4th year, that's when I started signing clients. And I signed maybe 3 or 4 clients in that year within a period of 4 to 6 months, which was pretty decent back then. Okay. Lastly, people also fail just due to a lack of focus. They're focusing on things that they don't need to focus on. So for you, focus on booking sales calls and taking them. That's it. As long as you have a sales process in place and you've done all this work, obviously part of this you've got to focus on as well, but that kind of comes into your outreach, right? Booking sales calls is your outreach, everything that I've spoken about in this video today. Sure, I didn't give you that magic script, because hopefully if you've watched all the way through here, you realize that there is no magic script. The magic script is having something that people actually want. and being able to go out there and put it in front of them. Okay, and if you're able to do that, and you're able to do enough volume, you'll book the 10 calls a week that you're after. Now, if you are an agency owner that's struggling to book a consistent, predictable flow of meetings, and you would like to work with me one-on-one in my mentorship so you can start doing that, and as I said before, assign 20 clients over the next 6 months on a guaranteed basis, click the link down below. It's a website that will tell you how I can help you. It will show you some case studies, some testimonials. It will show you a video of me talking about how we help you do it, pretty much everything I've kind of spoke about a little bit today. But if you want it, click the link down below. If not, it's totally fine. Click the subscribe button instead, because I make these videos twice a week, so you can use those to start growing your agency quicker. And then hopefully at some point you'll see the value that I provide in the videos, and then maybe we'll end up working one-on-one together. But until that point, if you've got any questions, comment it down below. I'll keep a few resources for you in the description, just based on some videos that I've referenced today. But yeah, aside from that, thanks for watching, and I'll see you again in the next video.